On this Tuesday night, clipped wings.
This decision was not taken lightly.
Why Canada's snowbirds are about to be grounded temporarily. Power struggle. Why a proposal to rework a much-despised hydroelectricity deal between Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador is being rejected.
But unlike our predecessors, we're going to do our homework.
Ebola warning. Fears the outbreak in Africa is being vastly underestimated. Plus, an emotional embrace decades in the making.
Wow.
The family reunited after the child welfare system ripped them apart.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. After more than 5 decades thrilling audiences across the country and around the world, Canada's aerobatic flight demonstration team, the Snowbirds, are being grounded temporarily. The planes the pilots fly are old and increasingly difficult to maintain. They will be retired at the end of this season. The plan is to replace them, though as Heather Yourex-West explains, that is not going to happen for several years.
That familiar roar of a flyover in formation will soon be coming to an end as Canada's snowbirds prepare for what will be their summer swan song, at least for now.
This decision was not taken lightly. The Royal Canadian Air Force is modernizing at a pace and scale not seen since the Second World War.
But the government's plan to invest in replacement aircraft for the aging Tudor jets has come too late to ensure continuity. While the Royal Canadian Air Force had hoped to keep the current fleet flying until 2030, engineers have recommended they retire at the end of this year.
This is not a long 3 or 4 or 5 year process of procurement. We know what aircraft we're going to be procuring. We're moving quickly to do so, and we'll obtain them as quickly as we can.
Ottawa plans to invest $9.4 billion to modernize the Snowbirds program with a fleet of CT-157 Siskin 2s. But those planes won't be ready until after 2030. The Prime Minister blaming previous governments for the delay.
We inherited a situation, or I inherited a situation, where the planes literally had come to the end of their lives. They were unique in many respects. They didn't have the parts and other things to safely fly.
The Snowbirds Alumni Association calls the decision disappointing, raising concerns with not only the prolonged interruption, but the choice in replacement aircraft, a turboprop plane as opposed to a jet.
It wouldn't have been our first choice. And the reason I say that is, as a G7 nation, all the G7 nations are flying, aerobatic teams are flying jet aircraft. You don't have the vertical performance and so on and so forth.
The RCAF plans to continue participating in local air shows in other ways after this year, relying on virtual reality as it tries to inspire the next generation of flyers. The Snowbirds are scheduled to begin their final season later this month in Montreal, before taking their last flights in October. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
It's been called a terrible injustice, an obscene contract, and the biggest giveaway in Canadian history. And today, an attempt to replace it has been rejected. It's about the massive Churchill Falls power plant in Newfoundland and Labrador. Back in 1969, the province signed a deal to sell electricity it generated to Quebec. It locked in a fixed price, a bargain basement price, for decades. And Quebec has been reselling that power for a huge profit. Newfoundland and Labrador has long demanded a fairer share of the profits. Now a review committee says a new proposal to do that is not in the public interest. Heidi Petracek is in St. John's tonight.
We're not tearing anything up, and we're not starting over from scratch.
But Newfoundland and Labrador's premier could call it a major rewrite of the province's proposed deal with Quebec for the sale of hydroelectricity from Churchill Falls.
We are endeavoring.
It's a far cry from 2024, when the past Liberal government touted the tentative agreement as generational. Now, an independent committee appointed by the Conservative government criticizes many parts of that memorandum of understanding as failures.
If the experience of 1969 taught us anything, it is that we must always read the fine print.
The committee's report to government lists a series of deficiencies, including failure to address the province's long-term electricity needs to grow the mining industry. The report's authors also accuse the previous government of what they call overreach into negotiations, including the addition of a 2% revenue escalator clause they say even the provincial utility didn't want. It also found the $227 billion provincial windfall cited by the former government was overstated and pegged the more realistic value at $36 billion instead, prompting the now opposition Liberals to fire back.
Will he insist, as Premier of this province, that they make themselves available so Newfoundlanders and Labradorians can get the answers they deserve from the authors of this report?
Pointing to time lost waiting on the review instead of sitting at the table.
We've lost 7 months of negotiating time, and again, when we're coming up on an election in Quebec, which could put the deal at risk depending on who gets elected.
The province has named a new negotiating team to restart talks. Quebec's response Tuesday suggests there's still a chance.
We remain committed to getting a final agreement with the government of Newfoundland over what we hope to be a short period of time.
Premier Wakeham did acknowledge that he can't control if there's a change of government in Quebec in its upcoming provincial election this fall, an election that could potentially upend these negotiations yet again. Donna.
All right, Heidi Petracek in St. John's, thanks. The war the U.S. and Israel launched against Iran is fueling a fresh bout of inflation in multiple countries, including Canada. G7 ministers meeting in France say they're worried the continued blockade of the Strait of Hormuz could slow economic growth worldwide. It's already caused a spike in fuel and food prices, and it's why Canada's inflation rate rose to 2.8% in April. Gillian Piper reports on where economists fear this is headed.
It's titanium, which is the strongest of all of the metals.
The U.S. president has a clear vision for White House renovations, but his plan for Iran is less certain.
We may have to give him another big hit. I'm not sure yet.
That volatility not helping global oil prices, which have surged as the war in Iran is seemingly still not settled.
Prices are staggeringly high, over $100 a barrel. What that means is that the price at the pump rises with it.
New inflation data shows Canadian energy prices rose 19% last month compared to the year before, and gas prices were also 28% higher than last April. But that hike isn't widespread. Overall inflation is sitting at 2.8%, with food, shelter, and clothing last month all close to the Bank of Canada's inflation range of 3%.
Strip away the sort of more volatile energy components, and what those are saying as well is that actually underlying inflation is decelerating.
But the new data only captures the initial impacts of the Strait of Hormuz closure, and there is concern that extended conflict in the Middle East will push prices even higher.
The longer this dispute with Iran continues, the more likely it is that oil prices will remain elevated, and then you will see food prices rising.
The federal government temporarily suspended the fuel excise tax last month, which is estimated to reduce gas bills by 10 cents per liter until Labor Day. But the finance minister would not commit to extending the pause if high gas prices persist.
The federal excise tax on gas, and we were very clear until Labor Day, and we're also monitoring the situation.
The latest inflation numbers make it more likely the Bank of Canada will hold its current key interest rate of 2.25% in June, as the central bank waits to see if inflation risks from the war in Iran subside. Donna?
Gillian Piper in Ottawa. Thanks, Gillian. There's concern about the speed and scale of an outbreak of the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's happening in a conflict-ridden region and involves a strain that has no approved vaccine. At least 131 people are believed to have died, and there are more than 500 suspected cases. Vincent McAviney explains why the scale of the crisis may be severely underestimated.
People in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, one of the world's poorest nations, are doing what they can to refurbish this Ebola clinic ahead of an expected influx of patients. Doctors in the region working for the World Health Organization say the more they investigate this outbreak of the rare Bundibugyo strain, the clearer it becomes that cases have spread.
What I see here in the field is extremely vulnerable people, fragilized population, fragilized by years of communal conflict. But I see also people working together while facing great uncertainty.
There are now more than 500 suspected cases and at least 130 suspected deaths in the DRC and neighbouring Uganda. But with conflict displacement, porous borders and transient mining workforces, health officials warn the true scale of this outbreak is likely being significantly underestimated.
These numbers will change as field operations are scaling up, including strengthening surveillance, contact tracing, and laboratory testing.
Dr. Peter Stafford, an American medical missionary infected with Ebola, has now been evacuated to Germany for treatment, along with his 4 children, his wife and another doctor, who are exposed but are not showing symptoms. Neighbouring countries like Rwanda are closing border crossings in an attempt to prevent spread. But without standardised tests, a vaccine or treatment for this variant, there are fears it could be worse than previous outbreaks.
A decade ago, when that outbreak was first identified, there were 40 cases, and it had been going on for weeks or months. When this outbreak is identified, there may be as many as 400 cases.
New modelling by a UK infectious disease centre suggests underdetection has been substantial, with potentially more than 1,000 cases already. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
In Southern California, more than 17,000 people are now under evacuation orders as a fast-moving wildfire threatens homes. The Sandy Fire started Monday northwest of Los Angeles. Fanned by strong winds, it's burned more than 500 hectares of dry bush and destroyed at least 1 home. It's now 5% contained, and firefighters are hoping calmer winds will help them gain more control. Police in California have revealed how the 3 men killed in a shooting at a mosque in San Diego saved the lives of many children who were inside at school. A security guard was killed first, but not before he engaged in a gun battle with the teenage shooters and used his radio to warn the school to lock down. Jackson Prosco reports on what the FBI is revealing about a possible motive.
Bullet holes are still visible in the walls of the Islamic Center of San Diego, a lingering reminder of Monday's attack.
I went inside the closet with my whole class. We heard like 12 or like 16 gunshots.
9-year-old Odai Shana was just meters away inside the center's school with 140 other children. He was rescued by a police SWAT team.
And then we saw a bunch of bad stuff, people laying down and bad stuff.
The 3 victims include the center's security guard, Amin Abdullah, a father of 8. As the attack unfolded, he began shooting at the suspects and radioed staff to lock down the facility.
If he didn't do what he did, and he sacrificed his life, the 2 suspects would have easily access to every single classroom.
2 other victims distracted the gunmen and lured them outside into the parking lot. The shooters fled just before police arrived.
Without delaying the actions of these 2 individuals, without question, there would have been many more fatalities yesterday.
The 2 suspected shooters, aged 17 and 18, were found dead in a vehicle nearby after turning their weapons on themselves. In this photo, you can see a gun beside their car and a gas can emblazoned with a Nazi SS symbol.
We also identified writings and various ideologies outlining religious and racial beliefs of how the world they envisioned should look.
At the time of the attack, police were on high alert for the suspects, acting on a tip from one of the boys' mothers that her car and guns were missing. Investigators have recovered more than 30 guns and a manifesto.
These subjects did not discriminate on who they hated.
The attack has prompted heightened security at religious institutions across the U.S. as this community remembers its heroes and mourns what was taken by hate. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Access denied. Coming up, the Canadian wanted by the RCMP fighting to get back into the country. A Canadian man who is stuck abroad is wanted by the RCMP on the grounds he might commit a terrorism offense, but Canada won't take him back. That's according to a cache of court documents obtained by Global News. The Quebec man left the country more than a decade ago, suspected of joining ISIS in Syria. Now he is pleading to return to Canada, but Global Affairs will not renew his passport, as Taria Isri explains.
This is suspected ISIS training video filmed in the Syrian countryside. The masked gunman appears to be Montrealer Wassim Bougadou, allegedly part of a wave of Canadians who joined the so-called Islamic State in the 2010s, asking the courts to order the federal government to repatriate them and renewing a debate over whether to bring them back or leave them overseas.
He has an absolute right under the Charter to return. He has no right to demand the Canadian government facilitate that return.
In 2017, Bougadou was arrested in southern Turkey, convicted of belonging to an armed terror group, and released from prison in 2024. Court documents show he's tried repeatedly to fly home, but Canada won't renew his expired passport. In an email to consular officials, Bougadou wrote, "I am stuck in Turkey in a pitiful situation, basically living as a refugee." He's gone to federal court, arguing the delay and/or refusal to issue him a travel document is a violation of his rights. Bougadou denies any role in ISIS or that he traveled to Syria. He says his then-wife tried to lure him there, that his confession was coerced under torture, and that video of him holding a military-style rifle was part of his marriage celebration in Algeria. If he does come back, the RCMP will be waiting. A Quebec judge signed a warrant for his arrest. Court documents say the 34-year-old is willing to surrender.
It's better to bring our citizens back home, charge them here, monitor them here, potentially rehabilitate them here.
Bougadou's lawyer, the RCMP, and Global Affairs all declined to comment on the case. A recent CSIS report warned that without sufficient mitigation efforts, extremist returnees could pose national security and public safety risks. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Almost 10 years after the Grenfell Tower in London, England went up in flames, dozens of criminal charges could finally be laid. The Metropolitan Police say 57 people and 20 companies or organizations are suspected of gross negligence, manslaughter, fraud, and health and safety offenses. Evidence will be submitted by the end of September, and charges are expected by the 10th anniversary of that fire. 72 people, including 18 children, were killed when the fire raced up the highly flammable cladding of the 25-story building. A public inquiry found government failure, incompetent regulators, and dishonest companies contributed to the tragedy. PWHL expansion ahead. A 12th team announced heading into the league's 4th season. They've done it again. The Montreal Canadiens won another nail-biting Game 7, this time beating the Buffalo Sabres in overtime. It is the first time the Habs have advanced to the conference final since 2021, and it keeps hope alive for a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in more than 30 years. The puck drops for Montreal's next series in Carolina against the Hurricanes on Thursday. The Professional Women's Hockey League is getting another team. The league is adding San Jose, California.
The PWHL has been so impressive. It's already shown the entire sports world what is possible when elite players and incredible fans and strong communities come together. The growth of this league honestly has been nothing short of amazing, and now we here in San Jose get to become part of that story.
San Jose is the 4th and final team being added for the next season alongside Detroit, Las Vegas, and Hamilton, Ontario. The new additions bring the PWHL up to 12 teams, double the league's first season in 2024, and 5 of the 12 are Canadian. Siblings reunited next, how these 60s Scoop survivors found each other after decades.
And selling the Pollock. Congratulations.
It is described as history's first truly abstract painting, and this Jackson Pollock has sold for a record $181 million. The swirling artwork went up for auction last night in New York. It is big, more than 3 meters, and was created on the floor of Pollock's barn by flinging and drizzling paint. It sold after 7 minutes of intense bidding, and it smashes Pollock's previous auction record of $61 million. There were some heartwarming scenes at Winnipeg's airport this week as 3 siblings met for the first time. They were separated at birth as part of the 60s Scoop. And now that they've finally been reunited, they're looking to reconnect with their family history and larger community. Vasilios Bellos has their story.
I'll probably just be crying.
Siblings anticipate finally meeting, decades after being torn apart.
It should be any minute now. It should be walking through the doors.
Joseph Lambert and Donna Morin embraced their sister Melody Roberts for the first time at the Winnipeg airport.
Wow!
The three are 60s Scoop survivors. From the 1950s to the 1980s, government policy allowed First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children to be removed from their families and adopted by non-Indigenous parents.
The heart is just bursting. It's bursting with happiness, and I'm just really looking forward to getting to know my sister and my brother more.
Lambert and Morin just met a year ago, but they say the connection as brother and sister was immediate.
Christmas, and we've done lots of things together.
yeah. It's fun. Yeah, like I can be open with her. Yeah, and I want to be open with her.
The Hope Center made the reunion possible, finding Roberts after sifting through adoption documents and connecting with services across North America.
It's heartbreaking that the parents are not here. I know the mom died of a broken heart, and but they have each other, and I think they'll live through that.
Roberts meeting more family at a lunch organized to welcome her. She's been able to look at family photos and learn more about where she came from.
You look like her, and you look like him, and it's like where she could tell that was her family.
The resemblances and finding a little bit of information out about them and where they're at, what they did. It's been wonderful.
The three are now looking to build their relationship as brother and sisters as work here at the Hope Center continues to unite more people impacted by the 60 Scoop. Vasilios Bellos, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Memorial Lake Regional Park near Shell Lake, Saskatchewan. Thanks for watching. Jeff Semple will be at the anchor desk tomorrow, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.